What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses meets her match in the most unpredictable talk show host on television? Today, we're diving into the explosive confrontation that had everyone talking when Julia Roberts sat down with the View panel and things went completely off the rails. This is the story of how Joy Behar pushed America's sweetheart too far, leading to one of the most dramatic walk-offs in daytime television history. Make sure to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story will leave you speechless. The studio lights were blazing as Julia Roberts made her entrance onto the View set, her signature smile lighting up the room as the audience erupted in applause. She looked radiant in a flowing emerald dress that complemented her famous red hair, waving gracefully as she took her seat next to the panel of hosts. Whoopi Goldberg welcomed her warmly, as did Sarah Haynes and Sanani Host. But there was something different about Joy Behar's demeanor that morning. While the other hosts seemed genuinely excited to have Julia on the show, Joy sat back in her chair with a slight smirk, her eyes gleaming with what could only be described as mischief. "Julia, welcome back to The View," Whoopi began, her voice warm and inviting. "It's always such a pleasure to have you here with us." "Thank you so much for having me," Julia replied, her voice carrying that distinctive laugh that had charmed audiences for decades. "I love being here with you all. The energy is always so wonderful." The conversation started pleasantly enough, with Sarah asking about Julia's latest film project and Sunny inquiring about her family life. Julia answered each question with grace and humor, sharing anecdotes that had the audience laughing and the other hosts nodding appreciatively. But Joy remained unusually quiet, watching Julia with an intensity that seemed almost predatory. "You know, Julia," Joy finally interjected, cutting off Sarah mid-sentence, "I've been watching your career for a long time, and I have to ask, don't you ever get tired of playing the same character over and over again?" The question hung in the air like a dark cloud, and the studio audience fell silent. Julia's smile followed it for just a moment before she recovered, letting out a small laugh. "I'm not sure what you mean, Joy," Julia responded diplomatically. "I've tried to take on a variety of roles throughout my career." "Oh, come on," Joy pressed, leaning forward in her chair with a grin that didn't reach her eyes. "The pretty woman, the romantic lead, the girl next door with the big smile. It's the same thing, different movie. Don't you think audiences deserve more from someone with your supposed talent?" Whoopi shifted uncomfortably in her seat, clearly sensing the tension building. "Joy, I think Julia has shown incredible range in her filmography." She tried to interject, but Joy wasn't finished. "I mean, let's be honest here. You've made a career out of being America's sweetheart. But what happens when America gets tired of sweet? What happens when they want something real?" Julia's posture straightened, and for the first time since sitting down, her famous smile completely disappeared. "I think my work speaks for itself, Joy. I've always tried to bring authenticity to every role I play." "Authenticity?" Joy laughed, but it was a sharp cutting sound. "Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks more like you've been playing the same version of yourself for 30 years. The other hosts exchanged worried glances as the atmosphere in the studio grew increasingly tense. Sunny tried to steer the conversation back to safer ground. "Julia, tell us about your upcoming projects. I know you have some exciting things in the works," but Joy wasn't about to let the conversation shift. "Actually, let's talk about something else," she said, her voice taking on a more aggressive tone. "Let's talk about privilege. Let's talk about how easy it is to maintain a perfect image when you've never had to face real adversity." Julia's eyes flashed with something dangerous. "Excuse me, you heard me," Joy continued, seemingly emboldened by Julia's reaction. "You've lived a charmed life, Julia. Born beautiful, discovered young, handed success on a silver platter. What do you know about struggle? What do you know about the real world that the rest of us live in?" The audience was completely silent now, sensing that they were witnessing something unprecedented. Julia took a deep breath, clearly trying to maintain her composure. "Joy, I think you're making some very unfair assumptions about my life," Julia said, her voice steady but with an underlying edge. "You don't know anything about my journey or the challenges I've faced, don't I?" Joy shot back. "Because from where I'm sitting, your biggest challenge has been choosing which mansion to live in." Whoopi finally stepped in more forcefully. "Okay, Joy, I think we need to—" "No, Whoopi," Joy interrupted. "I think it's time someone asked the hard questions. I think it's time someone called out this whole perfect princess act for what it really is. A carefully constructed lie." Julia's face had gone pale, but her voice remained controlled. "I've never pretended to be perfect, Joy. I've been open about my mistakes and my growth as a person." "Have you, though?" Joy challenged. "Or have you just fed the public the sanitized version of your life that your publicists approved? When was the last time you showed us the real Julia Roberts, not the manufactured product?" The tension in the room was now palpable. Camera operators adjusted their positions, sensing that they might be capturing television history. The other hosts sat frozen, unsure how to intervene in what was rapidly becoming a character assassination disguised as an interview. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Julia said, her voice beginning to show signs of strain. "I came here today to talk about my work and connect with your audience, not to be attacked personally." Joy leaned back in her chair with satisfaction, clearly enjoying the discomfort she was causing. "Oh, is that what this is? An attack? I thought this was just honest conversation." Isn't that what talk shows are supposed to be about, honesty? There's a difference between honesty and cruelty. Joy, Julia replied, her composure finally beginning to crack. There's a difference between asking tough questions and deliberately trying to hurt someone. Hurt someone? Joy laughed again. That same harsh sound that was beginning to grate on everyone's nerves. Sweetie, if a few honest observations hurt your feelings, maybe you're not as strong as you pretend to be. The words hung in the air like a slap, and Julia's face flushed red. For a moment, the entire studio seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see how America's sweetheart would respond to such a direct insult. Strong, Julia repeated slowly, her voice dropping to a dangerously quiet level. You want to talk about strength, Joy? Let me tell you something about strength. Strength is sitting here and listening to you tear me down for no reason other than your own entertainment. Strength is not responding to your cruelty with cruelty of my own. Joy's eyes lit up with malicious delight. Oh, now we're getting somewhere. There's that fire I knew was hiding under all that sweetness and light. Tell me, Julia, how does it feel to finally drop the act? This isn't an act, Julia said, her voice rising slightly. This is me trying to maintain some dignity in the face of your unprovoked hostility. Unprovoked, Joy scoffed. Everything I've said tonight has been fair game. You're a public figure, sweetheart. You put yourself out there. You open yourself up to criticism. Sarah Haynes looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Maybe we should take a quick break, she suggested weakly. No breaks, Joy declared, waving her hand dismissively. We're just getting started, Julia. Let's talk about your marriages. 3 marriages, was it? That's not exactly the fairy tale image you like to project, is it? The audience gasped audibly, and Whoopi's face showed pure shock. Joy, that's completely inappropriate, she said firmly. Is it? Joy challenged. She talks about love and relationships in every interview, makes movies about finding your soulmate, but her personal track record tells a different story. Doesn't it? Julia's hands were visibly trembling now. Whether from anger or hurt, it was impossible to tell. My personal relationships are exactly that personal. They have nothing to do with why I'm here today, but they have everything to do with who you are, Joy pressed relentlessly. They show the gap between the image and the reality. They show that maybe, just maybe, you're not the relationship expert you pretend to be in all those romantic comedies. I have never pretended to be an expert on anything, Julia said through gritted teeth. I'm an actress. I play characters. That's my job. Joy laughed that harsh laugh again. Right. You play characters, but the problem is you never stop playing them, do you? Even now, even here, you're still performing. When do we get to meet the real Julia Roberts? You want real? Julia's voice was shaking with barely controlled emotion. You want to see something real? This is real, Joy. This hurt you're causing, this embarrassment you're putting me through in front of millions of people, this is real. Good, Joy said with satisfaction. Finally, some honesty. Finally, some genuine emotion instead of that calculated charm you usually serve up. Sunny host looked appalled. Joy, I don't understand what you're trying to accomplish here. Julia is our guest who's been lying to the public for decades. Joy shot back. Our guest who's built a career on being fake. Fake? Julia's voice cracked on the word. You think I'm fake? You think everything I've worked for, everything I've achieved is fake? I think you're a product, Joy said coldly. I think you're a carefully manufactured brand designed to sell movie tickets and magazine covers. I think the real Julia Roberts, whoever that is, got lost a long time ago. The cruelty in Joy's voice was unmistakable now, and even the camera operators looked uncomfortable. Julia stared at her for a long moment, tears beginning to form in her eyes. You know what, Joy? Julia said quietly. You're right about one thing. There is a real Julia Roberts underneath all of this, and that real person is telling me that I don't have to sit here and listen to this abuse. Abuse? Joy mocked. Asking tough questions is abuse now. No, Julia said, standing up from her chair, but deliberately trying to humiliate someone. Deliberately trying to make them feel small and worthless. That's abuse and I won't tolerate it. Not from you, not from anyone. Joy's expression changed slightly, as if she was just beginning to realize she might have gone too far. Oh, come on, Julia. Don't be so dramatic. Sit down. We're just having a conversation. This isn't a conversation, Julia said firmly. This is a character assassination. This is you using your platform to bully someone, and I refuse to participate in it any longer. The other hosts looked panicked. Whoopi stood up as well, trying to salvage the situation. Julia, please don't leave. We can work this out. But Julia was already reaching for her microphone, preparing to remove it. No, Whoopi. We can't work this out. Some things can't be fixed with apologies or explanations. Some things are just wrong. Joy, perhaps sensing that she was losing control of the situation, tried a different approach. Look, Julia, if I hurt your feelings, that wasn't my intention. I was just trying to have an honest discussion. Julia turned to face her directly, and the pain in her eyes was evident to everyone in the studio. Your intention, Joy. Everything about this has been intentional. Every question, every insult, every attempt to make me look foolish or fake or whatever it is you think I am. You came into this with an agenda, and that agenda was to tear me down. That's not true, Joy protested. But her voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? Julia challenged. Then explain to me why every single thing you've said to me has been designed to hurt. Explain to me why you've ignored every attempt the other hosts have made to steer this conversation in a more positive direction. Explain to me why you seem to be enjoying my discomfort so much." Joy fell silent for a moment, and for the first time since the interview began, she looked uncertain. The studio audience was completely quiet, hanging on every word of this unprecedented confrontation. "I'm a journalist," Joy finally said weakly. "It's my job to ask hard questions." "No," Julia said with quiet intensity. "You're not a journalist right now, Joy. You're a bully, and I've spent too many years of my life dealing with bullies to sit here and let you continue." The word bully seemed to hit Joy like a physical blow. Her face flushed red, and for the first time since the interview began, she looked genuinely rattled. The studio remained dead silent as the two women stared at each other across the table, the tension so thick it was almost suffocating. "I am not a bully," Joy said, her voice defensive and angry. "I've been doing this job for years and I've never been called a bully." "Then maybe it's time someone told you the truth," Julia replied, her voice steady despite the tears that were still threatening to fall. "Maybe it's time someone pointed out that there's a difference between being provocative and being cruel." Joy's jaw tightened. "You want to talk about cruel? Let's talk about how cruel it is to lie to millions of people. Let's talk about how cruel it is to present yourself as something you're not." "And what exactly am I pretending to be?" Julia demanded. "What terrible lie am I telling by trying to bring joy to people through my work?" "You're pretending to be perfect," Joy shot back. "You're pretending to have all the answers, to be this beacon of light and happiness, when real people are struggling with real problems." Julia shook her head in disbelief. "I have never claimed to be perfect. I have never claimed to have all the answers. All I've ever tried to do is my job, which is to entertain people and maybe make them smile for a couple of hours." "But that's the problem," Joy pressed on, seemingly unable to stop herself now. "You make it look so easy. You make it seem like happiness is just a choice, like success is just about having a pretty smile and a positive attitude. And that bothers you?" Julia asked. Genuine confusion in her voice. "The fact that I try to stay positive bothers you?" "It bothers me because it's not real," Joy exploded. "Life isn't a romantic comedy, Julia. Life is hard and messy and disappointing, and when you go around pretending otherwise, you're doing a disservice to everyone who's struggling." The other host sat frozen, watching this intensely personal confrontation unfold. Whoopi looked like she was trying to figure out how to end this without making things worse, while Sarah and Sunny appeared genuinely disturbed by what they were witnessing. Julia was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was soft, but filled with a strength that hadn't been there before. "You know what, Joy, you're right about one thing. Life is hard. Life is messy. Life is full of disappointment and pain and heartbreak." Joy looked surprised by this admission, as if she hadn't expected Julia to agree with anything she said. "But you know what else life is?" Julia continued, her voice growing stronger. "Life is also beautiful. Life is full of moments of pure joy and love and wonder. And if my work, if my so-called fake positivity helps even one person remember that, then I'm proud of what I do." "That's just naive," Joy muttered. But she sounded less certain now. "No," Julia said firmly. "What's naive is thinking that tearing other people down makes you more authentic. What's naive is believing that cynicism is somehow more honest than hope." Joy's face was getting redder by the minute. "Don't you dare lecture me about authenticity. Don't you dare stand there and act like you're better than me." "I'm not acting like I'm better than anyone," Julia said, beginning to unhook her microphone. "But I am choosing not to participate in whatever this is anymore." "What this is," Joy said venomously, "is reality. This is what happens when someone finally calls you out on your act." Julia paused in removing her microphone and looked directly at Joy. "You want to know what reality is, Joy? Reality is that you've just spent the last 20 minutes trying to destroy someone for no reason other than your own personal satisfaction. Reality is that you've used your platform not to inform or entertain or inspire, but to hurt." "I was doing my job," Joy insisted, but her voice was beginning to crack. "Your job is to interview guests, not to attack them," Julia said. "Your job is to create engaging television, not to humiliate people who were kind enough to come on your show." Whoopi finally found her voice. "Julia, please, let's all just take a step back here. Maybe we can?" "No, Whoopi," Julia interrupted, gently but firmly. "Some behaviors can be fixed, some behaviors can't be excused. I came here today in good faith, expecting to have a pleasant conversation about my work and my life. Instead, I was ambushed by someone who seems to take pleasure in other people's pain." Joy stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You know what? Fine, leave. Run away. That's what people like you do when things get uncomfortable, isn't it?" Julia turned back to face Joy one final time, and there was something almost sad in her expression. "No, Joy. People like me choose not to engage with cruelty. People like me choose not to reward bad behavior with our presence." "Bad behavior?" Joy was almost shouting now. "I was asking legitimate questions about a public figure who makes millions of dollars pretending to be America's sweetheart. And there it is," Julia said quietly. "You said it yourself. You think I'm pretending. You think everything about me is an act, and maybe that says more about you than it does about me." Joy's mouth opened and closed several times as if she was trying to find words that wouldn't come. The studio audience remained completely silent, riveted by this unprecedented display of raw emotion and conflict. Julia began walking toward the edge of the set, her microphone now completely removed. For what it's worth, Joy, I hope someday you figure out why you felt the need to do this. I hope you figure out what you were really trying to accomplish. Don't you walk away from me, Joy called after her. We're not finished here. Julia paused at the edge of the set and turned back one last time. Yes, we are, she said simply. We're very much finished. And with that, Julia Roberts walked off the View set, leaving behind a stunned studio audience, a panel of shell-shocked hosts, and one very angry Joy Behar, who was still standing at the table, breathing heavily and looking like she couldn't quite believe what had just happened. The cameras continued rolling as Joy slowly sank back into her chair, the reality of the situation finally beginning to sink in. She had pushed one of Hollywood's biggest stars too far, and now she was left to face the consequences of her actions in front of millions of viewers. Whoopi cleared her throat and looked directly into the camera. We'll be right back after this break, she said, but her voice lacked its usual warmth and confidence. The damage had been done, and everyone in that studio knew they had just witnessed something that would be talked about for years to come. As the show cut to commercial, the audience remained in their seats, buzzing with excitement and disbelief about what they had just witnessed. They had come expecting a typical celebrity interview, but instead they had seen one of the most dramatic confrontations in daytime television history. What did you think about this incredible showdown? Do you believe Joy Behar crossed the line, or was she just doing her job as an interviewer? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more explosive celebrity moments that you won't see anywhere